from the vehicle. Hands where I can see them. Now!
Officer, I need you to listen very carefully. I own this property. My name is Lucas Wellington.
The screen flickers to life with the grainy footage of a police body camera. The timestamp reads Saturday, September 14th, 3:47 p.m. A luxury Mercedes G-Wagon sits in the circular driveway of a sprawling estate, its black paint gleaming in the afternoon sun. The sound of boots on gravel grows louder as the camera approaches. Step away from the vehicle. Hands where I can see them. Now. The voice belongs to Officer Derek Mitchell, aggressive and commanding. His hand moves to his holster as he closes the distance. A black man in designer athletic wear turns slowly, his hands rising in a gesture that's become all too familiar to too many. His voice is calm, but there's steel underneath. Officer, I need you to listen very carefully. I own this property. My name is Lucas Wellington, and you're currently trespassing on MY Estate. The officer's response comes with a sneer that the body camera captures perfectly. Yeah, and I'm the president. You got about 5 seconds to stop lying before this gets real ugly for you, boy. The tension crackles through the footage like electricity. What happens next will become a viral sensation, a federal civil rights case, and a $10 million lesson about assumptions, power, and the dangerous intersection of race and policing in America. This is the story of how one officer's prejudice destroyed an entire police department. Before we dive into what becomes one of the most expensive mistakes in law enforcement history, let me ask you something. Have you ever been somewhere you belonged and been treated like you didn't? Have you ever had to prove your right to exist in a space that was rightfully yours? If powerful stories, voices, and black triumphs matter to you, subscribe to Bold Black Watch TV. Like, comment, and share so these stories travel further. Because what you're about to hear isn't just one man's story. It's a story that's happened to too many of us in too many places for too long. Now, let's rewind and understand exactly how we got to this moment. Thaddeus Wellington, though everyone calls him by his middle name Lucas, is 41 years old and worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. He's a self-made tech entrepreneur who built a cybersecurity firm from his college dorm room and sold it 18 months ago for $340 million. $340 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. Lucas isn't new money trying to prove something. He's calculated wealth with nothing left to prove to anyone. He's methodical, precise, and has learned through decades of experience how to navigate predominantly white spaces with strategic patience. But here's what makes Lucas different from some. He refuses to shrink himself for anyone's comfort. He paid his dues. He built his empire. And he will not apologize for occupying space that he earned. This particular Saturday afternoon in September, Lucas is doing something he does every 3 months, conducting a detailed walkthrough of Thornhill Estate, his 12-acre property in Meadowbrook Heights, Connecticut. If you've never heard of Meadowbrook Heights, there's a reason. It's one of those places that doesn't advertise itself. One of those communities where the median home value is $4.7 million, where the streets have names like Whisperwood Lane and Canterbury Court, and where 94% of the residents are white. Lucas purchased Thornhill Estate 8 months ago for $8.2 million, making him the first black homeowner in the neighborhood's 67-year history. Let me repeat that, 67 years. Not a single black family. Not one. Until Lucas. He's dressed casually today, Balenciaga sneakers, fitted black hoodie, designer joggers, because he's inspecting outdoor work. His landscaping team finished new hardscaping around the infinity pool yesterday, and Lucas doesn't pay for anything until he's personally verified the quality. That's how you keep $340 million. You check the details yourself. He walks the property with his phone out, taking photos of the new stone pathways that wind around the pool, examining the outdoor kitchen installation, checking the pool equipment housing. Everything is documented. Everything is verified. This is who Lucas is, thorough, exacting, in control. What Lucas doesn't know, what he can't possibly know, is that 3 estates down, someone is watching him through binoculars. Her name is Eleanor Whitmore. She's 63 years old, a retired banking executive, and she serves on the Meadowbrook Heights Homeowners Association board. Eleanor has lived in this neighborhood for 22 years. She knows every family, every dog, every car. She prides herself on being observant, on being what she calls the eyes of the community. For the past 20 minutes, Eleanor has been watching Lucas through her binoculars, and everything she sees confirms her suspicions. A black man in dark clothing, circling a property, taking photographs, checking doors and windows. She's never seen Lucas before. She's only seen his wife, Caroline, a white corporate attorney, at HOA meetings. And Eleanor knows for a fact that the Wellingtons are never home on weekends. Except that last part is completely fabricated. Eleanor has no idea what the Wellingtons' weekend schedule is. She's assuming. She's filling in blanks with her own narrative, and that narrative is shaped by decades of media conditioning and unconscious bias that tells her, black man plus expensive property plus no one else visible equals crime in progress. At 3:32 p.m., Eleanor calls 911. Yes, hello, I'm calling to report a suspicious person at 47 Whisperwood Lane. There's a black male approximately 6'2" wearing dark clothing. He's casing the Wellington property, taking photographs, trying door handles. The owners are never home on weekends. I think he's planning to break in. You need to send someone immediately. The dispatcher takes down the information and codes it as a potential burglary in progress. 2 officers are dispatched, Derek Mitchell and Ryan Campos. Officer Mitchell is 34 years old and has been with the Meadowbrook Heights Police Department for 9 years. His personnel file, which will later become evidence in the federal lawsuit, contains 11 excessive force complaints. All 11 were dismissed or marked as unfounded. There are 3 written warnings about insufficient de-escalation efforts, supervisor notes describing him as overly aggressive in civilian interactions, and 2 mandatory counseling sessions that he attended but that changed nothing about his behavior. Derek Mitchell is exactly the kind of officer who should never have been allowed to keep his badge. But he did. And that failure is about to cost his department everything. His partner, Ryan Campos, is 28 and newer to the force, only 4 years in. Campos follows Mitchell's lead in everything. He's quieter, less confrontational, but he lacks the courage or experience to push back when Mitchell gets aggressive. And Mitchell always gets aggressive. They receive the dispatch at 3:35 p.m. and arrive at Meadowbrook Heights 7 minutes later. But here's their first critical mistake. They don't announce their presence. They don't pull up to the property with lights visible. Instead, they park 1 street over and approach on foot, treating this like a tactical operation instead of what it actually is, a welfare check based on a neighbor's call. They're hunting. And Lucas Wellington has just become their prey. Lucas is standing near the new outdoor kitchen, photographing the stonework installation, when he hears footsteps on gravel behind him. It's a sound that doesn't belong, quick, purposeful, multiple sets of feet. His body responds before his mind can process. Heart rate spikes. Muscles tense. He turns. 2 police officers are approaching rapidly, hands on their holstered weapons, their body language screaming aggression. Meadowbrook Heights Police. Don't move. Lucas's mind goes cold and clear. He's been preparing for moments like this his entire life. Every black parent's talk. Every news story. Every video that went viral before viral was even a term. He knows exactly what to do, and he knows that doing everything right might still not be enough. His hands rise slowly, phone visible in his left hand, palms open. Good afternoon, officers. I'm Lucas Wellington. I own this property. My identification is in my right front pocket. It's calm. It's clear. It's non-threatening. It's everything you're supposed to do. Officer Mitchell moves closer, his hand still on his weapon. I said don't move. What are you doing on this property? I just told you I own it. This is my home. Officer Campos, the younger one, looks nervous now. His hand moves to his weapon, actually gripping it. Sir, we received a report of a suspicious person. We need to verify your identity. Lucas takes a breath. Stay calm. Stay controlled. Of course. Again, my ID is in my front right pocket. I'm going to slowly reach for it with 2 fingers. My phone will remain in my left hand invisible. I'm recording this interaction. That last sentence, I'm recording, changes everything. Officer Mitchell's jaw tightens. His eyes narrow. The body camera captures the shift in his expression, the way his shoulders square. Turn that phone off. Now. Officer, I have the legal right to record our interaction. I'm going to reach for my identification now. I'm not asking again. Put the phone down and put your hands behind your back. Lucas's voice rises slightly, frustration finally breaking through the careful control. Behind my back? For what? I'm standing on my own property. I've committed no crime. You're being detained for trespassing and resisting investigation. Turn around. And there it is. The moment when everything accelerates beyond reason. Lucas can feel the situation spiraling, can feel the danger crystallizing around him like ice. Detained for trespassing? On my own estate? You need to call your supervisor. Right now. This is about to become a very expensive mistake for your department. Mitchell steps forward, reaching for Lucas's arm. The only mistake is you thinking you can tell me what to do, boy. Boy. That word lands like a physical blow. In that single syllable is the weight of history, the echo of every degradation, every assumption, every denial of humanity. Lucas's eyes flash with controlled fury. His voice drops, becomes deadly calm. My name is Lucas Wellington. Not boy. And I'm telling you one final time, call your supervisor before you do something we both know you can't take back. But Mitchell isn't listening. He's already reaching for his handcuffs. His hand closes around Lucas's wrist, and Lucas, operating on instinct, on fear, on the primal human response to being grabbed, pulls back. He's resisting. He's resisting. Campos shouts, his hand now fully on his weapon. I'm not resisting, I'm pulling away from unlawful detention. Get your hands off me. What happens next takes 7 seconds. 7 seconds that will be analyzed frame by lawyers, by civil rights organizations, by the media, by millions of people online. Mitchell forces Lucas against the stone wall of the outdoor kitchen. The body camera captures everything with brutal clarity. Lucas being slammed against the expensive hardscaping he just paid $60,000 to install. His face pressed against stone. Mitchell's knee driving into his back. The grunt of pain that escapes Lucas's lips. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut. You're assaulting me, on my own property, this is being recorded? Lucas's voice is strained, his face still pressed against the stone. Caroline. Caroline. Inside the house, Caroline Wellington is finishing her yoga practice when she hears her husband screaming her name. That particular tone, panic mixed with rage, is something she's never heard from him before. She runs. What she sees when she bursts through the French doors freezes her blood. Her husband, the man she's been married to for 12 years, the man who built a tech empire from nothing, the man who owns this $8.2 million estate they're standing on, is handcuffed and pressed against a wall by 2 police officers on his own property. What are you doing? Get off him. That's my husband. Caroline is running toward them, her phone already out, already recording from a different angle. Now, let me pause the story here for a moment because this is where I need to ask you. If you were Caroline, what would you have done in that moment? Would you have called their lawyer first? Would you have called 911 on the police? Would you have started recording like she did? Drop your answer in the comments, because this is the impossible position that too many families find themselves in, watching their loved ones being brutalized and having to calculate the best move to keep them alive. Every story here is bold. Every voice matters. If Bold Black Watch TV moved you, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and help us amplify Black stories about justice that deserve to be heard. Caroline reaches them, and her voice has transformed from panic to something harder, something that carries the full weight of her legal training and her absolute fury. Officers, stop. That's Lucas Wellington, my husband. He OWNS this property. Get your hands off him now. Officer Campos looks confused, uncertain. He glances at Mitchell. Officer Mitchell, already committed to his course of action, continues holding Lucas against the wall. Ma'am, step back. This man was trespassing. He's my husband. We own Thornhill Estate. Together. This is our home. Caroline is holding up her phone, swiping through photos, Lucas and her at the property closing, family photos inside the house, their wedding photo that sits on the mantel visible through the windows behind them, the property deed, utility bills with both their names. Officer Campos touches Mitchell's shoulder, his voice uncertain. Derek? I think we might have. He still resisted detention. We need to verify. Lucas's voice cuts through, still strained because his face is still pressed against stone, but carrying an authority that finally penetrates Mitchell's awareness that something has gone catastrophically wrong. What you need to do is take these handcuffs off me before I sue you, your partner, your supervisor, and the entire department for every cent in your pension fund. Caroline makes a call. 6 minutes later, their estate manager arrives with a folder full of property documentation. Deeds, titles, insurance papers, tax records. Everything that proves beyond any doubt that Lucas Wellington owns every inch of the ground they're standing on. Lucas remains handcuffed for 17 minutes total. 17 minutes of being treated like a criminal on his own property while 2 officers slowly realize they've just committed career suicide on camera. When the handcuffs finally come off, Lucas's wrists show deep red marks where the metal bit into his skin. The body camera has captured every second, Mitchell's use of the word boy, the excessive force, the continued detention even after Caroline identified herself, the 17 minutes of unnecessary restraint. Lucas rubs his wrists, and when he speaks, His voice is controlled but shaking with a rage that's been building for 41 years of navigating this country while black. Officer Mitchell. Badge number 2847. Officer Campos. Badge number 3392. You've just committed assault, false imprisonment, and violated my civil rights, all on camera. My attorney will be in contact with your department Monday morning. Mitchell, finally understanding the magnitude of his mistake, attempts damage control. Sir, we were responding to a call. A call about what? A black man at his own home? You didn't ask for identification. You didn't verify anything. You didn't de-escalate. You went straight to physical force. On MY property. And you called me boy. I want you to understand something. That word, that attitude, that assumption that I couldn't possibly belong here, that just cost you everything. The officers leave. They have no choice. They can't arrest Lucas because he's committed no crime. They can't even write a report that wouldn't immediately expose them to liability. They just leave and the body camera footage goes with them, stored in their department server, waiting to become evidence. As Mitchell and Campos walk back to their patrol car, Alexis drives slowly past the estate. The driver is an older white woman, and when she sees Caroline standing beside Lucas, clearly comfortable and at home, her face drains of color. She accelerates away quickly. Lucas sees her. Their eyes meet for just a second, but it's enough. He makes a mental note of the license plate. Connecticut registration, Charlie Tango Whiskey 4-7-2-9. Within 2 hours, through HOA records and some discreet inquiries with neighbors who are appropriately horrified by what happened, Lucas identifies Eleanor Whitmore as the 911 caller. Her call, which he obtains through public records requests, will become Exhibit A in the federal lawsuit. On the recording, her voice is confident, certain, describing Lucas as suspicious and casing the property. She never mentions that she has no actual knowledge of whether a crime is being committed. She presents her assumptions as facts, and those assumptions nearly got Lucas killed. Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, Lucas's attorney walks into the offices of Sterling and Associates, one of the most aggressive civil rights law firms in the Northeast. Benjamin Sterling has been practicing civil rights law for 23 years. He's secured over $200 million in settlements and judgments against police departments, municipalities, and individual officers. He's relentless, meticulous, and when he watches the body camera footage that Lucas provides, his response is immediate. We're filing today. By 4 p.m. that same Monday, a federal lawsuit is filed in the United States District Court, District of Connecticut. The defendants: the Meadowbrook Heights Police Department. Officer Derek Mitchell, individually and in his official capacity. Officer Ryan Campos, individually and in his official capacity. The town of Meadowbrook Heights. And Eleanor Whitmore for filing a false police report motivated by racial bias. The damages sought, $10 million. Benjamin Sterling holds a press conference on the courthouse steps at 5 p.m. Every major news outlet in Connecticut is there. Several national outlets send reporters. My client, Lucas Wellington, is a successful entrepreneur, a homeowner, a husband, and a taxpayer. On September 14th, he was assaulted, battered, falsely imprisoned, and had his civil rights violated by officers of the Meadowbrook Heights Police Department, on his own property. The body camera footage, which we will be releasing to the public, speaks for itself. This case represents everything wrong with policing in America. Assumptions based on race, excessive force without justification, and a complete failure to de-escalate. We will not settle quietly. We will not accept half measures. Justice will be served. The body camera footage is released to the media at 6 p.m. By midnight it has 10 million views. By Wednesday it's on every major news network. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. The footage is damning, impossible to defend. The image of Lucas being slammed against the wall of his own $8 million estate becomes a cultural flashpoint, a symbol of the absurd and dangerous assumptions that Black Americans face regardless of wealth, status, or achievement. The comment sections explode. The think pieces write themselves. The hashtags trend. Hashtag Lucas Wellington, hashtag driving while black becomes hashtag walking while black becomes hashtag existing while black. The Meadowbrook Heights Police Department issues a statement saying they take the allegations seriously and have launched an internal investigation. It's a standard response, carefully worded by lawyers, and it satisfies no one. The internal investigation, conducted over the next 6 weeks, reveals what Lucas's legal team already suspected. Officer Mitchell has a pattern. 11 excessive force complaints, all dismissed. But now, reviewed in the context of the Wellington case, those complaints reveal a consistent pattern of aggressive policing, particularly toward black residents and other people of color. One complaint involved a Hispanic man pulled over for a broken taillight who was handcuffed and detained for 40 minutes while Mitchell searched his car without consent or probable cause. Nothing was found. Another involved a black teenager walking home from basketball practice who was stopped, frisked, and questioned for 20 minutes about suspicious activity in the area. The teenager was 13 years old and carrying a basketball. Another involved an Asian American woman who was pulled over and subjected to field sobriety tests despite showing no signs of impairment. She was a hospital administrator returning home from a night shift. The pattern is clear. Mitchell uses his badge as a weapon and he targets people of color. Campos faces immediate suspension. Mitchell faces termination proceedings. But the real devastation is financial. The town's insurance carrier reviews the case and delivers catastrophic news to the town council. The liability policy will cover up to $5 million. Anything beyond that comes out of the town's budget. And based on the body camera footage, the carrier's legal team assesses the likely judgment or settlement at $8 to $12 million. Meadowbrook Heights is facing potential bankruptcy. The town has an annual budget of $42 million. A $10 million settlement would require cutting 30% of services, laying off municipal workers, and likely raising property taxes significantly for years to come. And here's where the story gets even more interesting. The community fractures. Some residents, about 40% according to a local poll, support Lucas completely. They're horrified by what happened. They attend town council meetings demanding accountability. They want Mitchell fired, want reforms, want the department overhauled. But others, including Eleanor Whitmore's social circle, including several HOA board members, including some very wealthy homeowners who are furious about potential tax increases, insist that the officers were just doing their job. That Lucas should have complied. That if he'd just followed instructions, none of this would have happened. These are the same arguments that get deployed after every police brutality case regardless of the facts. The same victim blaming, the same defense of indefensible actions, the same refusal to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't the black man standing on his own property but the system that assumes he must be a criminal. The Meadowbrook Heights HOA becomes a battleground. Caroline resigns from her committee position in protest. 3 other board members, all of whom witnessed how the community responded to Lucas's assault, resign in solidarity. Eleanor Whitmore becomes a pariah in certain circles, though her closest friends continue to defend her. She never apologizes. In interviews with the local paper, she insists she had no way of knowing Lucas owned the property, despite the fact that Caroline's name appears on every HOA committee roster and document, despite the fact that the Wellingtons' purchase of Thornhill Estate was covered in the local real estate section, despite the fact that a simple conversation with any neighbor could have told her who lived there. Eleanor maintains she was just being a good neighbor and keeping the community safe. Let me pause here and ask you, do you think Eleanor Whitmore bears responsibility for what happened to Lucas? She didn't put the handcuffs on. She didn't slam him against the wall. But she made the call. She described him as suspicious based on nothing more than the color of his skin. She set the wheels in motion. Bold Black Watch TV is more than a channel. It's a community. Subscribe, like this video, and join us as we celebrate justice, truth, culture, and powerful black narratives. Because these conversations matter, and they need to happen everywhere. The lawsuit proceeds through discovery, and every detail that emerges makes the case worse for the defendants. Mitchell's personnel file. The 11 complaints. The lack of de-escalation training. The department's failure to discipline him despite clear patterns of misconduct. Eleanor's 911 call, played in deposition, where her bias is evident in every word choice, every assumption. Lucas sits for a 6-hour deposition where he recounts every moment of the incident, every thought that went through his mind, every fear that he might not survive the encounter on his own driveway. Caroline sits for her own deposition, describing what it was like to see her husband brutalized while she stood helpless 20 feet away. The defense attorneys try everything. They claim Lucas resisted. They claim the officers feared for their safety. They claim the detention was reasonable under the circumstances. Benjamin Sterling destroys every argument with the body camera footage. You can't claim someone resisted when the video shows them complying. You can't claim you feared for your safety when the video shows an unarmed man with his hands raised. You can't claim reasonableness when the video shows you calling someone boy and slamming them against a wall before attempting any other form of verification. 8 months after the incident, 1 week before the case is scheduled to go to trial, the defendants settle. $10 million. The breakdown. $6 million from the town's insurance carrier, the maximum under their policy. $4 million from the town's emergency fund and general budget, requiring immediate cuts to services and a special assessment to replenish the fund. Mitchell is terminated and faces federal civil rights charges that result in a plea deal, 3 years probation, permanent ban from law enforcement, and a public apology he delivers with visible anger. Campos resigns and leaves law enforcement entirely. He moves to another state, gets a job in private security, and never speaks publicly about the case. Eleanor Whitmore settles separately with Lucas for an undisclosed sum, rumored to be around $750,000, and issues a public apology that reads like it was written by her attorney. It's hollow, legalistic, devoid of real accountability. Lucas accepts it for legal closure, but in interviews later, he says he never believed she understood what she did wrong. The Meadowbrook Heights Police Department is forced into a consent decree with the Department of Justice. They must implement comprehensive anti-bias training, overhaul their body camera policies, revise their use of force guidelines, hire a full-time civil rights compliance officer, and submit to 3 years of federal monitoring. The cost of compliance adds another $2 million to the town's financial burden. Property taxes increase by 18%. The town council election that November becomes a referendum on the case. 3 incumbents lose their seats. 2 years later, Lucas and Caroline still live at Thornhill Estate. They refuse to be driven from their home by hatred, by trauma, by the burden of being first. They expanded their security system. They installed additional cameras. They hire private security for large events. Lucas carries multiple forms of ID every time he leaves the house, even to check his mail. He tenses when unfamiliar cars slow near his property. He has a plan for every encounter with police, reviewed and rehearsed with his attorney. He's won the legal battle, secured accountability, forced systemic change. But the emotional toll is written on his face in quiet moments. On a Saturday evening in October, 2 years after the incident, Lucas stands on his driveway, the same spot where Mitchell slammed him to the ground, watching the sunset over his property. The infinity pool reflects the orange and purple sky. The stone pathways he was photographing that day now have 2 years of wear, 2 years of family barbecues and parties in normal life. Caroline joins him, taking his hand. We shouldn't have to fight this hard just to exist in our own home. His voice is quiet, tired, honest. Caroline squeezes his hand. No, we shouldn't. But we did fight. And we won. The camera pulls back, showing the vastness of their beautiful estate, 12 acres of manicured lawns, mature trees, a home that represents achievement and success and the American dream. But it also carries the weight of trauma, the memory of violation, the reminder that in America, even $8.2 million of real estate can't insulate you from the assumptions that come with black skin. Lucas looks at Caroline and his expression shifts, from melancholy to determination. It's not just about us anymore. Every time I tell this story, every time someone sees that body camera footage, someone else learns. Someone else prepares. Someone else demands better. Maybe one day that's enough to change things. Maybe. But change is slow and the cost is high. The screen fades to black. According to the Stanford Open Policing Project, Black Americans are 20% more likely to be stopped by police than white Americans, even when controlling for crime rates and demographics. Cases of racial profiling result in settlements averaging $2.4 million, but the psychological impact on victims is immeasurable. Lucas and Caroline Wellington donated $3 million of their settlement to civil rights organizations working on police reform and anti-bias training programs nationwide. Officer Derek Mitchell completed his probation in 2027 and now works in construction. He has never publicly expressed remorse beyond his court-mandated apology. The Meadowbrook Heights Police Department completed its federal monitoring period in 2028 with full compliance. Use of force incidents decreased by 62% during that time. Lucas Wellington continues to live at Thornhill Estate and serves as a board member for 3 civil rights organizations. Eleanor Whitmore still lives in Meadowbrook Heights. She declined multiple interview requests for this story. What did this story mean to you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like and subscribe to Bold Black Watch TV for more powerful black stories. Because Lucas Wellington's story isn't unique. It's happening every day in different ways to different people. And the only way we change it is by refusing to look away, by demanding accountability, by supporting each other, and by telling these stories until everyone understands that being black in America, even when you're wealthy, even when you've made it, Even when you own the very ground you're standing on, still means having to prove you belong. Every single day. Subscribe, share, comment. Let's make sure these stories travel as far as they need to go. This is Bold Black Watch TV, and we'll see you in the next story.